to Certified Life Coach Institute's CLCI Live.
Yes, we're not dead, so we are live.
Oh, you know what I was just thinking? It feels like I haven't done this in a while. That's because I missed last week because that was when the internet went out.
Because you haven't done this in a while.
Because
How was that internet saga? You got it working again, though.
That was such a weird saga, too. And how funny, because before the live, I was like, I don't really feel up to it. Or I said something like, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, something happened. I'm like, they're going to think I'm making this up.
Oh, yeah, totally did.
And we still think you were.
Well,
Anthony.
I had to work from a hotspot for 2 days. So, no, I was not.
Oh, that's no fun.
No,
Yeah.
it's not fun.
What?
Anthony won't be here next week on Tuesday
Oh, yes, that is correct.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
because it's his birthday.
Oh, and I'm not sure how it's going to work for me either. So we'll have to see how.
Oh.
Are you also celebrating my birthday?
Yes, I'll be in Seattle helping my son-in-law who's going to have some surgery. So,
On my birthday, no less. Thanks.
Yes.
Is it possible, though, that we have another bye week next week and start back up in October? If you both aren't going to be here and it's down to just 3 of us?
I think the 3 of you, maybe plus one of the other staff members, could join us as a guest.
We can work
That's for next week.
Yeah.
Today,
Yeah.
before we begin, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment. We like it when you guys comment and interact with us and ask us questions and give us feedback.
We don't like it when you make fun of us, though.
No, or critique me personally for the things that people have done. But, join in on the conversation. Today, we are talking about Balance 101. Are you agreeable or disagreeable? Yes, agreeable or disagreeable behavior. And how it fits into coaching ultimately. So we took a test, most of us, I don't know if all of us, did about our agreeableness. Who do you think has the highest and who do you think has the lowest agreeableness out of all of us?
Well,
Or before we share the results.
we all know one of them.
We all know that Anthony skewed his test to be the least disagreeable person ever.
Which
He
then
chose-
reinforces the fact that he is the most disagreeable person.
I think you guys are being not generous towards me, and you're being rude, and you might be wrong.
We've been down this road before with Anthony.
Yes.
Okay, so who do you think has the highest agreeability?
I think it might be me or Jerome, maybe? I don't know.
I'd say Jerome.
Really?
I think it's Jerome who scored the highest.
I'm taking it real quick. I haven't taken it.
Okay.
Oh.
Jerome, who do you think is do you agree?
No. I think it's probably close. I think it's a close race. I think it's between me or you, Jen.
Okay.
You think you're less agreeable than Jen?
I think it's the 4 of us, is what I think.
Yeah.
What
it's a
we
close
know
race.
is nobody thinks myself, Lisa, or Anthony are the most.
I think you're probably at the bottom, Brooke, which also your name is Jerome.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, you think that I'm at the bottom?
I think you're either at the bottom or second to last,
Okay.
but I'm probably at the bottom, even though my score's not that crazy.
Yeah, I agree. I would say,
Yeah, of course you would agree, Jen.
oh my God, yes. So true. Anthony's at the bottom, then Brooke, then Lisa, then Jerome, then me.
No,
Probably.
I'm a bottom. Okay. So, Lisa, how close do you think you are to being done?
I'm on 14. Hold on.
Go faster.
I'm working on it.
Why don't we pop the link to this agreeability test into the chat for anybody who's watching that wants to take it as well and
Compare
learn where
yourself.
they're at?
And then after we compare the results, we'll talk about what actually is agreeableness versus disagreeableness, and then
Well, once we know who to believe.
who to bully. Yeah. So let's start with Jen.
How do we feel? I feel okay that like people don't. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. You guys copied. How do I delete a message? That's funny.
Yeah, do not click that message, folks.
I don't know if I can even delete it. I think it's there for life. I don't think it'll get them anywhere.
I don't
but
think
the
people
Slack-
will get. Yeah, they.
Okay, good.
That's
If you can
hilarious.
see into our Slack workspace,
Ooh.
welcome to the team. I guess.
Yeah, we
Ooh, I
were
have to work on
Slack.
it.
Well, it'll be fine. They just won't have access.
That's funny. Let's try that again. You guys, I've been moving all
Sure.
week.
While Brooke's been doing that, Jen, what is your score?
My score is 84 out of 100, which
And
is
that-
moderately agreeable, but it's the top of it. It's like the last number
Plus-
before it goes into highly agreeable.
Okay, so 84. Jerome.
You guys, I don't know what I lost my results.
Oh no.
I remember what they were, but not the exact score. I'll just take it really quick.
That's Jerome.
I got 83.
Ooh, a smudge under Jen.
Yeah.
Lisa.
Oh, I know. I'll go last.
Okay, since Brooke is retaking hers.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a number 4.
I
Oh,
got
you're retaking it? Okay.
I got 53, which is low in agreeableness.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's at the cusp of being in the middle. It's close
Yeah.
to being in the middle.
Well,
but-
Anthony has a less satisfying life.
yes,
um,
you do. Lisa, what's your score?
I have to work on it. I'm
you-
87.
87.
Oh.
The highest. You are highly agreeable.
Wow, I did not expect that. I mean, I knew you were going to be high, but not that high. Wow.
Love bending over backwards for other people. Brooke.
I'm on number 8. I was moderate. I was definitely moderate. So
In moderately agreeable.
yes.
Okay, that's fine. Nobody was in the middle. I'm the only disagreeable person
Yes, you
in
are.
the bunch. And that's fine because I'm not agreeable at all. I'm just low. Which has its benefits, as we will find out soon.
So
we're just gonna-
we aren't surprised, right?
No, not
Sounds
really. I thought you guys might have skewed a little bit lower on the agreeableness, but you guys are pretty easy to get along with. It's probably a better way to put it.
I think Lisa, she took it kind of in a rush. I was
Yeah.
able to sit down and like be honest with myself because I wanted
I think being in a rush is better though, because it makes you not think about how you want to be perceived. It's just you just got to
True.
answer them fast as possible, Brooke.
I know. I'm on 16. Hold on. I mean, you're talking and I'm tuning in.
There were some that I went, what's the truth here?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure, so I'm just going to choose this one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I had a little more time to just really evaluate it, I might have been even more agreeable. Just kidding.
So, what does being agreeable and disagreeable actually mean? It's more of an interpersonal sort of trait.
I'm at 73, y'all.
Okay.
73.
Moderately agreeable.
So moderate, but on the low end of moderate.
Mhm.
I didn't hit the ends on any answer, and I think that I did that the first test too, so I tried to stick towards the first test, and I didn't strongly agree with anything.
But I think it's also given in the moment, given, the time of day, if we're stressed, I think those
Oh, yeah.
answers could certainly change, if we're not feeling
Yes.
as strong about ourselves as, so I think, like any test like these, they can be skewed.
So, we were talking about what is actually agreeableness and what is it we're measuring with agreeableness. It originates with the big 5 personality trait tests. One of those personality traits. I don't know what the other traits are. I probably forgot it, but I have taken a big 5 personality test before. And it's correlated a lot with the dark triad traits like narcissism.
Would you like to know what the big 5 are?
Yes.
Yes.
Neuroticism,
Mhm.
agreeableness, conscientiousness, extroversion, and openness.
So all
And
those
I
other
happen to
traits we
know-
could have. Oh, Gail, go on.
Oh, yeah, I happen to know that conscientiousness is directly linked to length of life. But anyways, carry on.
Gotcha.
They've found that people who are more conscientious tend to live longer lives. Hi, Sue.
Survivorship bias.
Hello? Hi,
Survivorship bias.
So we know that it's linked to sort of the dark triad personality traits such as narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. These are not these are kind of loose on the psychological sort of terms, kind of loose interpretation, which we just released an article on Machiavellianism. Go ahead and check
I'm just
that
wondering
out.
how they're linked to those three, because those three are the dark triad. We're talking about the big five personality.
Yeah, but there's a correlation between how disagreeable you are and how much you show those other traits, which
I don't know if that's 100% true.
I mean, if you're narcissistic, psychopathic, and Machiavellian, you're probably not an agreeable person.
Yeah, but a lot of narcissists tend to also be chameleons and agree in
And manipulate.
situations to be manipulative and to let people, get people to like them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's 100%. Maybe I'm wrong though. Yes, Anne. I'm sorry.
Well,
Well,
I mean, in their natural state, I think Anthony's correct. In their manipulative behaviors that display, I think you're right, Brooke.
Okay.
if you also feel the need to manipulate others, you're probably a little bit disagreeable rather than seeing it as like cooperating with people or
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
coming to like a compromise with
Because
people.
at that point, you're putting like your goals ahead of like other people.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the best way to sum it up is disagreeable people see other people as a means to an end, whereas agreeable people see people as an ends rather than a means.
That's a big blanket statement. I'm not sure if I'm signing off on that.
I just said it was a general statement. All right, you don't
This
have to agree.
is about
This is
being
why-
disagreeable. Can you get
This
that?
is why I
Ken?
score 73 right here. You see that?
So, what does being agreeable mean? I've been talking a lot. What do you guys think agreeableness is?
I just kind of showed it, where I made nice between the two of you who are,
At each other's throats.
yeah. I was going to say that, but you clearly weren't. I was joking.
Well, do we want just like the dictionary definition to go off?
No.
of? Okay. You want like
We do
I'm
have that.
asking you guys what your definition is.
What are we asking?
I think
What
agreeableness
is agreeableness?
agreeableness is like, I almost think about people pleasing, but I don't want to mistake the two for each other because I think there is a difference. But it's like I think that your like desire is to have this like positive, environment, and you overtly go out of your way to what's the word? Nurture a more positive and friendly environment. And so all the things that come along with that, which is probably being empathetic, being willing to put your own feelings aside for somebody else, being, wanting to sort of create a happy, friendly space as much as humanly possible. And probably a deeper sense of like, just like maybe when things are like that, there's more like of a like good sense of sort of satisfaction or like, okay, life's not so bad. It's pretty good. Yeah.
what if it's just as simple as agreeableness is someone's willingness to agree? Like, what if we're overthinking it and it's really simple?
Yeah.
Because I'm willing to agree with like most things with like an asterisk, like I can always take that perspective or typically understand how someone's line of thinking got them there. So that, in my opinion, like I'm open to agreeing with a lot of stuff. That's why I feel like I'm agreeable, is because I'm always willing.
Is there a difference though between like agreeing and understanding or validating. Like I feel like when somebody agrees with me, they get it. They're co-signing. They're there. They understand. They're on the same page.
But I think agreeing and agreeable have a deviation between them. I don't think they're exactly the same thing. So what are we asking?
Okay.
Agreeing or agreeable?
I think agreeable is like a personality trait that encompasses a lot of things, such as agreeing.
Okay. Okay.
Coming to the same consensus about something, or be willing to come to the same consensus. But there's a lot of other things that tend to be associated with agreeableness, like cooperation, or empathy.
That makes sense.
So like, if we're using, I come across the term agreeable as like an adjective a lot of the times, like, oh, like Jen is an agreeable person. Doesn't mean she agrees with everything I say. It's just, she has all those traits that come with it.
I feel like you want to.
Distinction.
I would like to be around agreeable people. I feel like agreeable people would make me feel like happy and comfortable, and like life is good.
Well, that's not Anthony.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also true.
So I kind of want to ask, when is it beneficial to be agreeable, and when is it beneficial to be disagreeable?
I can think of. Go ahead, Brooke.
I was just gonna ask, like, under what?
Just in general. Like for myself, I think if business is looking for like customer service jobs, front-facing jobs where you're directly interacting with customers, face to face, you want agreeable people.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, if you're like on LinkedIn and you're taking those like job tests, it's like literally testing your agreeableness. And if you are a disagreeable person, you are not considered for the job. We're only looking for people who think the customer's always right, easy to work with, happy to please, yada, yada, yada. That's when being agreeable is a good thing.
I think when you're on a team too, as well, that's a good space.
I have mixed emotions.
Not always, not always. But I do think you fit well in a team. It doesn't mean you're going to make the team good, but you do fit well in a team environment.
Yeah, if you're on a team where everyone's... go on.
Somebody in the moderate, like low, moderate, mid, moderate, agreeable. Maybe like a good, like a good span of people through there. Like, because you want at least, one disagreeable person, one person that's going to be like, no, we're driving off the bridge, like, and be willing to say it.
warning, that says warning, we're not agreeing to go through that. I can see that. But when I'm looking at, and I know we're not supposed to use a definition, but I'm looking at the definition of what it means, in a business setting, disagreeable, I'm not sure that it really is a huge purpose to serve in general, because I still think one doesn't have to be repugnant to convey a message and to create change. But I also don't think that being agreeable does that either. So I think it's a combination of things, not just one or the other.
I could see in a business sense, like a business leader having disagreeable traits could be good because they can be decisive, or if they need to negotiate on behalf of the business, they can hold themselves against other disagreeable people who have conflicting goals. Or if it's like a zero-sum game, you need to be disagreeable to win.
They're okay with with sitting in an uncomfortable situation
or crushing the competition,
knowing that they might be the cause of that uncomfortable situation. I mean, absolutely.
What's in the definition that I just realized is really interesting? So discomfort in the definition we put on the screen said something about discomfort, like creates discomfort. And then the definition of agreeable is enjoyable. And so, of course, like I'm sitting here thinking, of course, I'm agreeable. People enjoy me more if I'm agreeable. Like, hello, it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's times that I've been told I'm not agreeable. That's definitely true.
I don't really like those
So-
definitions,
Oh,
but
yeah,
that's
go on,
what we
Jerome.
got. I said I don't really like those definitions, but
What
that's
do
what we
you
got
think?
from Webster. I think there's just a lot more to unpack there. Disagreeability causing discomfort marked by ill temper. That seems very shallow of a
Yeah,
definition.
the ill temper part, I don't know that that has to be part
Yeah.
of it.
That's what that's my argument as well.
I think I can be disagreeable and still
Be
still
pleasant,
not
semi
have a
pleasant.
guilt. I don't have to be pissed off.
Yeah.
I've also been very agreeable sometimes, but also ill-tempered at the same time.
Yeah, there comes a
So
disclaimer with you
Annoyed.
when you're there.
Yes, because of the absence of conflict,
Mhm.
which I 100% agree. I mean, most people don't want more conflict in their lives. I mean, maybe there's some masochists out there. Good on you. But most people are not seeking out conflict.
I think I enjoy conflict to a certain degree. I think it shows at CLCI when there's like a conflict, I tend to like throw myself in there to resolve it.
Oh,
But that you become agreeable then.
but does that make you agreeable then? 'Cause
Yeah.
you're resolving
Yeah.
it.
Well, I deal with it. It's resolved in our favor a lot of the times with CLCI. Let's just say that. I don't want to get too specific with like certain phone calls we've had. But
There's plenty of times I have been very firm with people, where when we're talking customer service, there is that time where you just have to be firm and you have to go.
do you want something to go in your favor and you're calling us and you're watching this? Hope to God you don't get me. Have Jerome or Jen answer the phone.
Are you agreeable or a fixer? Ooh, that was a good question.
Yeah.
That's a very good question.
I'm a disagreeable fixer.
Let's circle this over to the coaching space. So, talking about this concept of agreeability and disagreeability in coaching, how does this come up for you guys? What are you thinking when we start to apply this in that space?
Well, for me, because I am agreeable, I have to be aware that my clients typically, not every single one, okay, this isn't an all or nothing, this isn't an absolute, but there is a good majority that because I am agreeable, because that's the personality that they're working with, I have to be prepared for asks that cross boundaries, and I have to be prepared to kind of redirect and make sure I'm clear about professional boundaries and clear about what I am able to give as a coach and where, I feel something is either aligned with coaching or not aligned with coaching. So an example of this is like at the end when the client's like, yeah, and if you could just follow up with me about that. No.
Yeah.
No, so I am always prepared for that and how I deal with that, which is, actually, how would you feel about following up with me? Because I'm putting it back to them because it's in their benefit. It's not because I'm lazy and don't want to reach out. That's not my job. It's their job to create an accountability system that works regardless of whether I'm in it or not, that they can then use once they're done working with me. So if they can realize, hey, all I need is, someone or something to check in with, that's good. That then they can realize that's a system they can use outside of coaching. Also, the more work that they do and the less work that I do, the more it benefits them in their growth. Truly. I mean, we talk about don't work harder than clients.
If they say, I want you to reach out to me and you're not, does that make you disagreeable?
No, I still am agreeable. I'm just very calculated. I've actually, had to realize, hey, as a coach, there are a lot of situations that come up that I have to be prepared for and know, do the opposite of what I'm kind of used to doing, which is just going with the flow and being agreeable. So it's actually been very good for me personally because I've learned how to say no and, ask for what I need and redirect without feeling bad about it. I don't even feel bad about it. It's not mean. It's not, rude. It just is.
I love all the labels that Jen was having to discard. I remember this is a learning process, but she's like, I'm not lazy, I'm not rude, I'm not all the things that she had to clearly work through. All of those labels she had to discard to come to the other side of, okay, I can do that.
I had to sort through the inner critic list. Nope.
I think that is a fantastic point, and I remember being on that journey with you in the sense that as you were going through and starting to coach, you in the beginning had more of a willingness to be that accountability partner, to have that, and you had a learning that was something you didn't end up wanting to do or shouldn't do, and ended up adjusting and pivoting in that space. So
yeah, I definitely had to learn the hard way what works and what doesn't work. But it's the best type of learning because it's not forgettable. It's like fully integrated bone knowledge.
But I think that, and I was playing with you about it, not about it being disagreeable, but if it's assertive, that's the better word choice. That's an assertive behavior. Yeah.
Also too grounded, because just because somebody suggests something or says something doesn't mean I have to jump and say yes. I mean, it gives me this moment of pause to go, okay, actually, how about like that moment didn't exist for me until, I started coaching and started to realize how important it was to capture that moment and not just say yes.
So there's another space that comes up for me in this, and this is in the actual coaching space when we're coaching. And I'll just ask you guys, I know what my thoughts are on it, at least right now. When we're in the space of coaching and listening to our clients, are we being agreeable or disagreeable in the work?
I would say
when we're listening to clients.
I think it's agreeable.
I would say we're neither. I would say we're neutral.
I would say it's agreeable only because like the basis of a normal coaching session is, part of the core competencies like empathy, partnership, trust, the politeness of just holding the space and being quiet. It might not seem like you're doing anything, but it's a lot compared to people who've never coached before and their inclination is to like jump in with their advice or say something. It's a skill we cultivate as coaches by just being quiet and listening, which I think is under the surface and is agreeable. It's part of being agreeable.
Yeah.
That is to say, there are moments where you can and maybe ought to be disagreeable in a coaching session, but just the listening part that Brooke is saying, it's agreeable.
The foundation of coaching is agreeable, is what you're saying.
I didn't say just the listening. I said in the work.
So then, I guess more specifically, what do you mean by the work?
I just mean like in the the exchange, the back and forth that happens with between us and our clients. How are we showing up?
That would be agreeable, and I think maybe to contrast that, like maybe a consultant or a mentor could show more disagreeableness. Like, no, that's not the way to go about this, client. You should do this. My experience is X, Y, and Z. I know what is correct. This is what you should do.
So does disagreeable?
Go on.
Does disagreeable always have to mean no?
I think so, but with here is my component. I disagree with what you're saying, or I think there's something that maybe needs to be tagged on, and I'm going to assert what my own position is.
Okay.
Not so much the hard, you're wrong.
Right.
But I disagree, or there's more to add, or here's my perspective to throw in there.
Yep. It's not disagree. It's curiosity of what else is there or what else is possible in the space. That's
So
what I
if my
think.
client says, I always mess things up, and I say always,
Mhm.
That's disagreeableness, and I think that's a good form of disagreeableness.
So I'm disagreeing with our disagreeing, disagreeableness and agreeableness. I'm gonna change the word that we're using in this space. I think it's assertive versus not being assertive is really what we're in
Lisa,
the
the lie
But
is about
but
agreeability, though.
hold on though. In that question that Brooke asked, is that true? She's not asserting anything.
I'm not.
There is an implicit disagreement though with when the client says it's always like this, and then Brooke retorts, "Is that so?"
Mhm.
It's kind of implied that you
Mhm.
don't agree, and you're asking, is that really
We're not
true?
supposed to be not agreeing. It's just supposed to be a question of curiosity to just test the limits. It's not a question that says we don't agree with them.
But I mean,
If
when we
I'm
ask those kind of questions, is it always the case? Why are we asking that question? I
I
don't think it's
already
because
know
we're
that
curious.
always is a logical fallacy, right? So I
Yeah.
already know that nobody always does something, right?
Yeah,
It's not
I
nothing is always true.
I don't think Brooke is approaching that question with like actual curiosity. That says, really,
It's a
is
challenge.
that
It's
always?
100% a challenge in that moment. Like I'm challenging their choice of words in order for them to challenge themselves, right? Now, if they responded to me and said, yeah, no, 100% always,
Yeah.
I would probably still even ask, can you think of any instance in which you didn't mess something up? So I would, if they tried to tell me, no, it's always, I would continue with that line of questioning. Can you think of any instance where that was not true? This is, Byron Katie's the work kind of a bit in this. And I think in that moment, there is some disagreeability there. I mean, in a supportive way, I think.
So disagreeability, when I looked at the definition, said cantankerous, angry. It utilized those kinds of words, and I don't feel like that fits.
Yeah.
I don't think that definition applies to disagreeability. I mean, being ill-mannered or just being in a bad mood, I do that all the time, and I'm agreeable at the same time.
It's kind of
I-
true.
It's like when Brooke, and to bring it to home, when Brooke asks me for help for things,
Yes.
and I'm in the middle of something else, it kind of puts me in a bad mood, or I'm not the most approachable, but I still do it anyways to be, helpful and cooperative.
This Saturday is a great example. He woke up, he hadn't had breakfast. We had to move. It was Sunday. He was in just a cantankerous mood. And I was like, if this is how it's going to be, then I don't need your help. And then at that point, he was like, oh, okay, I'll fine. I haven't eaten.
But I'm still willing to be helpful and
Yes.
cooperative and do the thing. So I don't think maybe like the mood or attitude is really goes with the definition of disagreeable or agreeable. I think it's more of a willingness to either go with another person's story or what they want versus your unwillingness or your willingness to assert what you want instead and what your desires are.
I think
So part of
there
that,
is
go on.
But isn't that then using in that example between you and Brooke? Didn't you then turn that table and become agreeable?
No, I think I was agreeable the entire time. I was
Yeah.
willing to do something I didn't
Yes.
really want to do.
Oh no, I meant in the very beginning. Okay.
But yeah, with the example that Brooke said, I was willing to be cooperative. I was empathetic towards, she needed the help and assistance.
He just wasn't happy about it.
I was not happy about it. I didn't like it, and I just did it
But
anyways.
ultimately, he was being very agreeable.
Yeah.
which I think Anthony is more than he gives himself credit for. A lot of times he is a begrudgingly agreeable human being.
Which is, I think, just the willingness to cooperate with another person. But in the instance where the hypothetical question came up where, oh, I'm always, messing things up, a coach does not have to be willing to co-sign the BS. They can
Right.
disagree, and in the manner in which the coach disagreed in this instance was, is that always the case? Is that always true?
I think
I still don't
we're
disagreeable though.
we're trained to be disagreeable in a careful and productive way, but we're always there. We talk about how in these circumstances we're there to challenge our clients and challenge their perspectives of the world, but I mean, do so in a way that hopefully doesn't send them screaming and running, right? Like we don't want to. That's not. There are coaches that do that. That's their shtick, it's no BS. You're gonna get the full, So I'm gonna be like, stop there, Is that true? And just be a little more brutal with it. But I think most coaches are probably kinder. But we have that candor piece. We have that piece where we are not going to let somebody, of course, just spew a perspective that isn't fair to them, isn't fair, isn't serving them without us maybe questioning it or disagreeing or shining a light on spaces they may not want a light shined on or may not feel as comfortable having a light shined on. But ideally, we do it in a way. We disagree in a way that is, it's always for their benefit, right? It's always with we're not disagreeing just to be disagreeable. We're disagreeing with the client's greater good in mind, if that makes sense.
I'm still not buying it. I like candor. I like that word candor. I think that is a feeling for me more accurate that describes what we're doing with the client. I like the word challenge.
Challenge.
I'm not disagreeing with the client. I'm not agreeing with the client. Challenge with candor, sure.
I think challenging is a form of, the disagreeableness. I would lump that into it.
I think I just have a negative bias towards that word. Disagree.
I think so too. And the coach training, we don't wrap it up as disagreeableness. We, use different terms because we like things to be agreeable and we want our students and coaches to feel like they're doing agreeable things.
If we went into every coaching session wanting it to be the most agreeable place in the world, right? And that's why I tend to live with Jen a little more in this neutral space than agreeability. We don't want it to be, right. And it's not saying the literal word agree. We're not in there just agreeing with everything our client said, right. But if we're taking all of the other words that creating a space that is where everybody's getting along and everything is conducive and there's all this I think of that cartoon where it's like an idyllic situation. The birds are chirping, everything is in Technicolor, and there's a Disney princess skipping down with her prince, and she's singing to the birds. But that's not what our coaching sessions are all going. We're not going to get a lot done.
Coaching with couples, and they're really angry with each other is definitely not that.
But we have to understand there's going to be moments of tremendous emotion and uncomfortability, and where it doesn't feel like an agreeable space. If we're talking about not just the literal definition of I agree, I disagree, right? We're talking about all the other traits that come with this concept of agreeability and disagreeability. And I feel like we have to be willing to get into some of those uncomfortable spaces which would, I think, by the definition of all these we're not talking about somebody being cantankerous, but just being uncomfortable. And being uncomfortable with having to explore things in themselves that maybe they didn't realize were there. And that is not a situation that to me feels like everything is getting along inside me, right? A lot of my coaching sessions, it's not the case. I'm exploring tremendous emotion and processing tremendous emotion. And I don't think that's something that people think about right off the bat as being agreeable, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
In coaching too, like just the part about discomfort coming from disagreement, like, yes, that is actually part of coaching. It's the discomfort that comes from being gently challenged on what you're saying.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
So that was it was funny because everybody went to this agreeable space. And I was in my head, I'm thinking, no, it's not always agreeable. It's not, I don't feel like it's always an agreeable, because the work gets done in the uncomfortable spaces. And I think that's, but we've got to it's neutral and safe. And that's why it's okay, right? Because we've created this safe, neutral space for this uncomfortable stuff to sort of come up, as it were.
I think neutral is a better word, for sure. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
What about managing clients who, and I say managing, not fixing or changing, but managing clients who are on the one end of the spectrum of agreeable versus disagreeable. But they have
really agreeable clients versus
really agreeable who maybe it doesn't benefit them in certain goals or aspirations, and really disagreeable clients who their disagreeableness is being a block for. And I want to preface, their goal is not to change their agreeableness or disagreeableness. That's not what they're coming to coaching for. They are just people who have excessive amounts of one end of the spectrum.
Yeah. I'm thinking of one that I had who was disagreeable, would be on that side of the spectrum, who was only agreeable really with his perspective and his ideas of how something should or shouldn't be, and disagreeable if there were any other input into the possibilities. And so it's definitely a challenge, and the challenge became about challenging him to consider other options and opportunities and how that would play out. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of that, that reminds me, Brooke, you probably would only know this, the relationship therapist, that TV show we watched on Netflix. There was one guy who was incredibly, I don't know. There's one guy though in the relationship who was incredibly disagreeable, and
he was.
What I saw was the therapist was talking to her mentor, and the challenge was to meet him, like try to figure out like how do I meet him where he's at. I always feel like I have to like extend myself to speak into his language and into his world.
He was incredibly disagreeable, but it was like language focused. Like he would the moment she would use a different word, he would immediately disagree with anything she was saying. So she would be reflecting back to him, but use a different word than he used, and he would go, "Oh no, you didn't. You got it wrong. You don't understand." Mm-hmm. And it was driving her nuts because she's just trying to surmise. And he's not she doesn't repeat verbatim back to him what he has said. He doesn't feel understood. And he ends up being very argumentative.
Which I can see why that would bother a client, because they feel like they're not being represented correctly and they don't want to be misrepresented. And so I think part of the challenge for maybe working with disagreeable clients is, for the coach, you have to maybe take extra steps to be in their world and use their language, and be a little bit more careful with that. Absolutely. Not that you're trying to, bring them to you. You're having to do the effort to go to them.
Yes. Well, what was also interesting in that, and I think it's something she was able to do. I'm not having a coach do it. I mean, I think it's possible, but at some point or another, she addressed that issue directly with him, where she was like, what you're doing is getting so lost in the minutia here that we're not able to do the bigger work. So we're getting so focused on these minutia things, it feels like it's a way to avoid getting larger things done. And what are we here for? What is the goal? The goal is for us to get along, for us to figure this out. And he ended up turning a corner and becoming a totally different human being in those sessions. And his wife ended up being the problem. It was really interesting to watch. But she eventually just had to sort of address that with him and go, what is the big picture here? Is the big picture, getting lost in all these minutia details or what we're working on.
I think that's kind of a tough call for coaches, and like you're
Yes.
kind of taking a gamble because it could be the coach is just satisfying their own desire. And
That being said, I think the coaching model kind of sets us up for success, though, in that before we get to that, we're getting lost in the minutia. We whittle it down to we have a session goal. And I don't see in those therapy sessions each session having a goal. At least what I can tell, I'm not sure. They go in and discuss, and whatever comes up comes up. But we have much more, or the structure where we want to accomplish something, we want to get it done by the end. So we can't. It's about moving this forward motion, and everybody has the same goal. We're all working towards it. And so, because we have that focus sort of in the forefront of our mind, I think it allows to cut through some of the fat. And it might just be a matter of trust too, right? Like allowing there needing to be some trust built. So he definitely had a lot more issues earlier on than he did later. It was interesting. They had been to like 6 different therapists that they all fired in less than 3 sessions prior to that. So,
and I guess once they're on a TV show, now it's
yeah, they're stuck with them.
So opposite end of the spectrum.
What?
Agreeable clients whose either politeness, they're overly flexible, or too empathetic, and that's sort of hindering their goals.
So that's who I usually coach. So most of my clients are very similar in agreeability to me. For whatever reason, that's who is being attracted to me. And so for me, there is a lot of checking in. There's a lot of like when they say something, how did you feel when you said that? Because I'm trying to see energetically, emotionally, like, do they match what their words are? And I'm giving them a lot of opportunities to almost show them like, you can do this to yourself. You can check in with yourself. Does anything here feel, misaligned or does anything here feel like, off to you? Like I give them a lot of cues for checking in to make sure everything feels good with what they're saying or with what they're agreeing to. So that's one. And then another one is like just reminding. So I do a lot of reminding, like that they're always at choice, and that, I'm not attached to what works and what doesn't work, that the most important thing here is the truth. That's what matters the most. And the more transparent they can be in our space together, the more we are going to be able to create success together. So I just check in a lot, and then I do a lot of reminding. And hopefully the goal is that they pick up on like, this is what they can take with them and do on their own once our work together is done, is that they've learned that process. So they're not always just agreeing and, then feeling, damn, I shouldn't have agreed to that. It actually was totally wrong for me. Like it gives them that ability, hopefully, to do that more often on their own.
I've just gotten really comfortable with being okay with changing my mind. I know I said I would, but I am kidding. That's not the case. I do. I've gotten more comfortable with changing my mind than I once was, but now I take a little extra time before saying yes to things.
Yeah. Yeah. And just letting the client know that if anything changes, share. That's what matters. What matters is, the client's truth. And if it's feeling forced, or if it's feeling, manipulated or contrived in any way, then that matters. And we can use that as like data in the work that we're doing, such as like, these cliche things. Sometimes, this is normal. A client will bring in this cliche thing that they've been taught over and over in their life. Like, good things come to those who wait. You know what I'm talking about.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yes. And so that's when we have this opportunity, is to like really look at like how that is impacting them. Does that even feel true, or are they forcing that type of thing? So I don't even really know if I made any sense there.
Yes.
No,
I loved it.
Maybe even go as far as to ask, like, why is that true? You're granting them at least the benefit of the doubt that it's true, but maybe helping them clarify and explain, why that's true.
Or
might be
maybe instead of, I'll do you one better. What is true about that?
what is true,
or
about
what
that?
is true for you about that?
Mm-hmm.
How
Yeah.
did you come to that conclusion?
How is that serving you?
Tell me why.
Well, no, that's true. The what question tends to be less, we don't like, this is like a thing. I don't know where I've learned this at some point in the past 2.5 years of training, but we don't like, it's one of the coaching books. Which
Why?
one?
Yeah.
We don't like why questions. When someone
Why
asks
leads-
why,
Why leads to a lie?
right, and kind of, something shifts. And so taking the question of why and reframing it, starting with a different word, what usually works pretty well, can actually create more, willingness and openness for the client to explore why, ironically, just without using the word.
Yes. And that word why is like a bad word in our coaching language.
It's good at work, because I really like when Anthony will be like, okay, Jen, tell me why you say that. Tell me why you think that. And it really causes me to go, damn, why do I think that? And I just
It's a good. I feel like it's kind of useful at the very beginning of a coach's career to like maybe avoid steer clear of why questions, but like you quickly got to break that habit. It's more of a way to just prevent you from messing up in the very beginning. Those why questions can be so helpful, especially when the client is just sort of saying things that aren't challenged or aren't really well thought out. And it helps them either build up the reason why that is true and assert, okay, now I can be confident with this belief, or, okay, let's reevaluate, let's rethink, and maybe find something that works better for what I'm trying to accomplish. What my story for my life is.
So it's the fulfilling the story of what is your why versus why didn't you do your homework.
What is your why, or even why is your why? Like you've given a why to me. Why is that the case? And then you can keep going. It's probably not.
You can just go 5 layers, 6 layers deep into whys.
Yeah.
Just
Which eventually someone will go, I don't know. I just don't know. That's the way it is. But
I just
stopping
like
before you get to that point.
That's just fun to do to people in general. Like, hand me that cup of coffee. Why? Because I'm thirsty. Why? Because I haven't had anything to drink and I'm tired. Why?
That would actually be pretty good coaching niche. I'm going to, don't steal this from me, you viewers. I'm going to be the why coach. I only ask why, and you have to give me a sufficient answer. And once I'm satisfied, I'll ask why.
Why? Now you have to add some what's in there. It's not going to work.
No, I'll try it.
And
nobody steal that idea.
What's and hows are important though. So, alrighty.
We're at the end. What did we all learn? What's our final thoughts?
I'm still on the fence on whether I like those word choices: agreeable, disagreeable. I like some of the other ones we came up with, and so part of that means if I have a bias, I have to look into what all of that's about. That's what I learned.
I love what Jen said about getting to the truth. What the importance of your client's truth. I think whether you consider yourself disagreeable or agreeable, getting to the truth is going to be something that eventually leads you to the outcome that's desirable for yourself. So I think I love that part.
Agreed.
I'm going to say there is no such thing as truth. We everything is
your truth. Your truth.
Some people would disagree.
Who would disagree?
At least not a universal truth.
I said some people would disagree.
Yes.
What is your takeaway?
My takeaway is that Lisa's more agreeable than I thought she was. My takeaway is that I actually don't think I would use agreeable or disagreeable as words to describe coaching at all.
Yeah, that's where I am. Yeah, I like some of the other words. Yeah.
But
There's
yeah.
a lot more baggage in these words than we thought, which maybe it's not a bad thing.
That may be true. That maybe the baggage that we associate with these words that makes it not part of coaching. So I'm on the fence about knowing if the terminology is accurate towards coaching.
But I do think it is very helpful for any coach to be aware of how agreeable or disagreeable they are, like in general, what is their personality, because then you can kind of strategize and prepare for what then comes up in coaching. For example, me being super agreeable, I'm prepared for how to deal with, a lot of asks that aren't appropriate necessarily in coaching. So
did you say ASK, or did you say?
Oh, it sounded like I said ass. Asks, ASKS.
Yeah.
My final takeaway is if you believe that, agreeabilityness is part of a person's personality, like the other big 5 traits, which you might be skeptical of. If you do agree that is a personality trait, it has to be a part of coaching, because you got 2 people in a session who are coming into it with their own varying levels of disagreeability and agreeability, and it's going to influence how the coach and client meshes. No getting around that.
I'm not looking at it from a client's perspective. I'm looking at it from my perspective as a coach on those word choices. Definitely, if I were to hear what you're saying, Anthony, clients can definitely be in disagreeability behaviors for sure.
Yeah.
So I would agree with that.
Yeah, I do think it also is on the coach, because then they can employ skills that either, I'm going to be a little bit more polite, I'm going to be a little more empathetic towards my client, versus I think I'll challenge my client more. I think I'll maybe share some insights that I'm seeing that might make the client uncomfortable, but will hopefully improve the flow of the session.
I know for a fact that Anthony is more agreeable around my friends than he is around his own friends. So.
Absolutely. There are some things that I have said to my friends on a very casual basis I cannot repeat, or else I would maybe lose my job. Who knows? Versus your friends, Brooke, where I'm very nice, and your family too.
And all I think is he better be.
Absolutely. That should wrap it up, though. Thank you for joining us for CLCI Live. Be sure to take our classes. Agree with everything I'm saying right now. Get your coaching education. Take coaching 101, 102. You can be an agreeable or disagreeable coach.
If you disagree with anything we said, please feel free to leave it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Or
and if you
shove it. I don't,
And if you want to hear us while you're driving, and maybe you don't want to watch us, remember we are on Spotify. Check out CLCI Live on Spotify and anywhere else you can listen to a podcast as well.